Yo, check it out. Want to know if the price of those Wave Runners is too good to be true? Or if I Wear My Kicks 49 is truly selling dead stocks? Or if that Jordan 1 Royal Box is original? eBay checks. See that little blue check mark? Behind it is a team of independent authenticators who check. And we mean everything. Every tongue, check. Every toe box, check. Every corner of every box, check, 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 check. Every logo, every label, every lace loop. Yeah, it's checked. The luster of the leather, the topography on the tags, to the straightness of the stitching on the sole. Everything you can see, and even some things you can't.
Really?
Then they tag them, log them in the system, box them up, and ship them out, with no cost for the buyer or seller. eBay checks, so the moment you open that box is as real gets.
Six invited teams, 6 teams that have battled their way through our open qualifiers, all facing down now in the Knights Arena Valorant Challengers here in North America. A lot of great Valorant already played yesterday, and that was only day 1. This is week 1, day 2 of the action, and I cannot wait to get it started. I'm Sierra Dawn, and joining me for today, 2 wonderful casters. We have I Hold Shift and Dust. A little early on the
Just
room.
flew in.
Flew in. Hey, the energy's high. It seems like we're all excited for some Valorant today. Shift, you're beaming ear to ear.
Always. I'm always here. It's a great day to be back doing more Valorant stuff. As you mentioned, the day yesterday was a fun one. I think we kind of saw what maybe the top level may look like and maybe what maybe not the top level looks like. And we may have a little bit of that here to kind of kick us off for day 2. Yeah, I'm pumped and ready to go. Let's get at it.
Yeah, we started things off on a really hype note. Some of the names, the teams to watch out for, battling off to start everything off, kick the split off right, Dust. I mean, some of the matches were a little one-sided, but still, we got to see the cool names. We got to see the cool teams.
Exactly. I mean, you know, coming into this, we knew that the Guard was going to be one of the teams to keep an eye on. They only lost 1 player from their lineup last year, and they were certainly one of the best teams in the region in 2022. They still got their star Trent, still got their IGL Valen, still got the crew, and they certainly showed yesterday that, yeah, you know, they are the favorites right now.
And on top of that, we also had a look at some newer names as well. I mean, that Oxy kid on G2 looks unbelievable. He had a great opening series versus FaZe Clan, a team that expectations were still kind of surrounding them as well. So, yeah, it's going to be fun, I think, to see who pops up today and maybe steals the spotlight early on in this group stage.
And you're saying like there was all the expectations with FaZe Clan, but also with G2, just a couple of question marks with regarding the team as a whole. And after they took that first loss to FaZe, being able to see them come back with those 2 wins, and even seeing the interviews with them after, like, okay, like it's fine, like just a little dust, we're good. Has me excited for the split.
Yeah, I mean, G2 is an interesting one, right? Because, they house a couple of players formerly of Sentinels last year. That was a team that had very high highs, but also some pretty low lows, and it put a lot of question marks around players like Shazam and Dapper, and if they were still motivated and if they could get things back on track. Now they're under a new organization. They have a few new teammates, and they're able to come and get an opening win on the opening day of Challengers, and that's certainly a step in the right direction to kind of get them back on track as players that we know and love.
I mean, it's a nice way to make sure when you're taking these wins on day one that you can make sure the standings look really nice in your favor. Of course, the fact that we've only had 1 day of competition, yeah, this isn't how they're going to stay. Yeah, FaZe is at 6th place in Group A here. It's not going to stay like that for long, I am sure, but you want to make sure that you can be getting all the points you can. The Guard, of course, with that 2-0, that plus 12 differential looking real nice, Dust.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Guard came out and did exactly what everyone expected of them. That was to come out and get a big win right off the rip, and they didn't even allow their opponents double digits on either map with that 2-0 series. So yeah, high differential puts them at the top seed. Again, though, that is just day one. As you said, we have a lot of Valorant left to play over the course of this split and next split and a mid-season invitational and all kinds of good stuff in Challengers this year. But yeah, those are definitely names I expected to see win yesterday, and they were able to capitalize.
Lot of great Valorant coming up. I'm so excited about all of these teams that made their way through these open qualifiers, how that's going to be shaking up, because there are some really good teams in the open qualifiers and in the last chance qualifiers trying to make their way to this level of competition. We could only get 6 of them in here, but you know that they're going to be putting in the work to try and make sure they can be competing at this type of level.
I think on top of that, we're going to give a little tease into it. We're going to see 3 of those teams that made it through the qualifier that were not invited initially. So we're going to get more of our bearings straight as far as what to expect out of the teams that made it through a qualifier. Some teams' routes towards qualification, I will say, may have been a little bit easier than others. But at the same rate, when you've got half of your player pool here invited in, we haven't really seen a lot of these squads play at full form outside of a couple of instances here or there since the new year turned. So there's a lot to learn about how rigorous was that path through qualifiers. Were any of those teams actually worth their weight? And then maybe the same thing for the invited squads. A lot of merit was built up in 2022 from them, but can they hang going into some different metas as we start to look into the 23 year?
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting position to be in at the beginning of the season, right? Because like you said, you have these 6 invited teams that are built upon players that were, present throughout the majority of Challengers last year, whether it's kind of the same squad like the Guard, for instance, or whether it's like this mixed and match squad like an M80 or what G2 has become. But the same could be said for some of these newer teams, like a team like Oxygen. They got put together basically 5 players from 5 different teams just a month or 2 before the qualifiers started. So even the ones that went through qualifiers, that's pretty much all that they have played, except for maybe like 1 or 2 other small events. So everyone's kind of coming in this year with a clean slate as far as what the expectations are, what they've shown us. And so like you said, a lot of it for us is kind of speculation. Like we don't have that much data in front of us yet for anyone.
It's exciting, and going over to today's schedule, we do get to see 3 of these teams that had to be fighting their way through the open qualifiers, which is exciting. But to start things off, it is instead going to be TSM, another team that has quite a lot of question marks around it, going up against Mad Lions. Second off, it will be Breakthrough versus Oxygen Esports here.
Yeah, that is a really good point that you just made there. A team with a lot of question marks around it. That is TSM, because in 2022, they didn't even qualify for the first stage of VCT. And while they did qualify for the second stage, they came pretty much in dead last, going 1-4 in the group stage. Now, they've maintained their core of Corey, Guimond, and Seven, but Seven now has a new role on the team. Hayes is making a return after spending a lot of time on energy and having success with them, leading them to 4th place. And then you have Nature, a guy who's formerly of Gen G and Immortals now on the team. So It is going to be interesting to see if TSM can turn things around this year, kind of maintain the same core three, but kind of bringing back an old face and Hazed and bringing in some new blood in nature.
And I think just on the other side, to kind of speak to both accords here, this Mad Lions team is not a team to be slept on. And they looked really polished with the qualifier. And even though they don't necessarily have the same personal notoriety that most of the players on TSM have been able to build through their careers, there are still a lot of players who have been tremendously close to qualifying for some of those VTT stages. So I still have a lot of expectations that Mad Lions can make this really, really fun affair.
I mean, they also picked up Will, right? A guy from 100 Thieves who, while he may have had his bumps in the road at the beginning of that team as kind of their primary duelist and chamber player, by the end of Stage 2 last year, he was looking phenomenal. And then he went to Champions and he was dunking on DRX and Fnatic on an international land. So Will definitely has a point to prove coming into the team. He actually was replacing the Oxy player that you were talking about that went over to G2, and he's filled those shoes really well for this Mad Lions team to be kind of that star player, so to speak. So I'm expecting a pretty good brawl here between TSM and Mad Lions to kick us off today.
Well, and you're talking about individual players with something to prove, but I feel like both of these teams, both of these rosters also have something to be proving. Looking at a lot of the power rankings that were going around, even the Knights Arena spike down that happened, both of these teams actually were pretty low in the rankings considering, and I think TSM was the lowest rated out of all of the invited teams. Mad Lion, I kind of like this team. They were also rated pretty low, so I feel like there's also just that little bit of expectations here, looking at them like, okay, we didn't really know what to expect. We know that there's a lot of question marks, maybe a couple of doubts. So I feel like heading to the first game will be really interesting how things will shake up.
Yeah, I mean, I think power rankings are just hard this early in the season, right? I mean, yeah, you know what the guard is capable of because they're maintaining their core four and just making one swap, but we saw other teams making drastic changes in combinations, and so you're kind of just banking on the quality of players that teams have picked up as kind of your starting point for power rankings, but you don't know how they're going to work together yet. You don't know how their practice has been or how good they're prepared for these opening matches, so I think power rankings could pretty easily blow up in just a couple of weeks. Again, I have to respect those guys for putting together something because it's really hard to do anything but speculate based on player quality.
And the same thing can be said if you're a team that only had to play through the first qualifier. We saw them play like 12 maps, and most of it was like they hard vetoed out one or two of the maps almost every single series. So yeah, it's hard to put like a full weight in towards like, here are the power rankings. These are also going to match the expectations, which is why this first week is so fun.
Well, with our map picks and bans, we can at least start getting away from speculation and going into some of the artifacts of how things are going to be played out towards today. And it is exciting, the fact that there is just still so many questions regarding these teams. I feel like before, when the rosters are so set, you have so much tape, you can see the map picks and bans and instantly know, ooh, what is absolutely amazing, what is not necessarily the best. There's a couple of things we already know. I'm not really surprised to see that Haven ban out whatsoever, but Mad Lions deciding to take it to Icebox first.
Yeah, I'm not surprised to see that. It seems like Icebox was a map that Mad Lions were able to use to pretty good success throughout the qualification process for this event, you know, when they were beating up on like 99 strength and when they got their revenge against the Nation as well later on in that bracket. You know, Icebox was one of those maps that were pretty key for them. I was actually a little surprised to see TSM ban Fracture. That was a map that they were actually playing pretty well throughout the qualification process, but maybe just kind of respecting the fact that that's also a pretty good map for Mad Lions. So maybe just kind of understanding that and moving away from it. So yeah, we're left with Icebox and Bind and then Ascent for a decider.
Yeah, Bind is, I think, the most peculiar of the maps because, you know, there's not a lot to go off, as we continue to mention here. But for TSM, during the Ludwig and Tarek Invitational, they didn't play that map at all. And we kind of, a lot of teams kind of staying away from it, so to speak. So hard to say, I think, what their preparation is going to look like. But yeah, I was going to mimic, I think, what Dust was saying here, seeing that Fracture was on the table for them. They decided to not go to it, maybe because they've done a little bit of research into, you know, what this Mad Lions team had also found success with through those qualifiers, you know, for whatever that's worth.
Well, considering that this is still a point where we're figuring out where teams necessarily lie, there is always the ultimate question when we're looking at the map picks and bans. Do we think we're going to make it to Ascent? Do we think we'll even make it to a map 3 between these teams, or?
That's a tough one for me because, Bine's only going to be in the rotation this week and next week, right? I believe by week 3, that's when we see Lotus and Split come back in and Breeze and Bind are gone. So you start to wonder how many teams are still investing a lot of time into that map, knowing it's going to be out the window in a couple of weeks. Are they already focusing to try to get ahead of the rest of their opposition for the maps that are to come? So that always kind of throws a question mark up for me when a map like that comes in. But I think both these teams, come into this, in my mind, like, on pretty equal footing as far as talent goes. I think it's just about, who's more prepared, who's been able to come out. Because I've seen good signs from both these teams throughout the qualification process.
And they both have a certain level of like superstar power, I think, built into their rosters, which kind of a key indication of some of the made it through qualifiers, what their kind of strengths are going to be based off of. It is some of these heavy hitting players that had been to VCT before, couldn't quite stick with the same team, but still have the ability to be a game changer. And so I think both teams have that kind of high level, but at the same rate, both these teams are also really good statistically as a group of 5. So yeah, I think it's going to be kind of tough for us to just look at it right off the rip and say, here are where the key differences are, because I think on paper, they actually do match up pretty well.
All right, well, I'm excited for this, especially too. I feel like TSM has been a team that definitely some people have been counting out. But I mean, they were at the Ludwig and Tarek Invitational. They got second. They lost 1-2 to the Guard, which has been one of the teams that has been like hyped up to be one of the teams heading into this. So I mean, they're not out of practice. They're not, taking a break during this offseason. They've been putting in this work too.
Yeah, I think it's just like, the thing is, what you're going to get from Corey, right? He's a very explosive duelist player. I think that the meta suits him pretty well right now, that you don't have to play Chamber. You can let him loose more on people like Raze and Jet. And so I think that really plays to his strengths. I think what the big question is going to be is some of these role swaps that have gone on TSM with Hayes coming back into the fold and with Nature being selected. You're having Gamon going from being a primary controller player to now playing a lot of initiators, a lot of KO and Breach. And he's doing it pretty well. But then you have Seven making perhaps the biggest role swap of all, going from being that kind of star player like Corey is for this team to being more of Killjoy most of the time and maybe playing some Sage and an occasional duelist. So it's very interesting to see how TSM will adjust to this, how they're able to work everything out and balance everything.
There's a lot of excitement, I think, just based off of what we know from Corey and what we saw from Corey at the Invitational. But even on the other side, just looking at, again, new players that are kind of cropping up early as far as conversations are considered. For Mad Lions, it was kind of a full roster effort to get to the qualifiers, but most impressively, Zextra was kind of the I'm looking at for this series, who was a lockdown player that found so much success. Him and his overall rating that was posted on Valor GG, that was one of the best ratings, period, let alone for somebody who's playing more of a Sentinel control style role for his squad. So when you match that with then the slaying prowess that we've known to expect from Will, these two can be really, really disastrous, I think, for TSM, because you've got someone who's been able to showcase that they can shut down big duelist plays out of Zexro, and then you've also got one of the best duelists, I think, probably here in NA Challengers out of Will, just based on what he's been able to do in the past. So I'm really excited to see who's going to show up from both sides, because I think we both have ideas as far as who the likely candidates are, but there's nothing to say that those are guarantees at all.
My question is the supporting cast, though, man, because I think you hit the nail on the head about Zexro and Will certainly being the front runners on this team. But when you're matching 5 for 5, I wonder about someone like Drone, who, obviously back in the day when he was on TSM, he was kind of like a Phoenix One trick, and that's kind of what got him off the team eventually. And he's had to completely remold who he is as a player throughout his time playing with Dark Zero and things of that nature. Same thing could be said for, someone like Tricked, who is going to be kind of also playing that initiator role alongside someone like Drone. So I'm kind of curious how that supporting cast kind of surrounds Will and Zexro throughout the course of the season to see if they can be a strong team together as a unit. Whereas I know for a fact that players like Gimon and so over on TSM can put up numbers when need be.
Yeah, and I love the fact that Valorant, we've evolved enough as a game and just as an esports that we can talk about players that have now had to remold a little bit or looking at this new look. We've seen previous duelists now going into Sentinel roles and etc., which I think also just makes it really exciting going into this year with Challengers League, with the new meta just around the corner with only a couple weeks left with apps like Vine, that it'll be really interesting to see what players will be able to just adapt really quickly, what players have been putting in that work, and which ones ultimately just will make it to the end.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing that you're seeing is just Chamber going by the wayside on a lot of maps, and now teams are finally able to start bringing back Cypher and Killjoy back into the fold. And remember, Killjoy and Cypher in particular were like some really big agents for some players that kind of made their careers on those agents like really early on in Valorant until Chamber became a necessity. And you still do see some Chamber on a couple of maps here and there, but it has been interesting to see how that Sentinel role has kind of evolved, but in a way that kind of just circles back to old times. I don't know how you want to put it, but it's been awesome.
Well, it's really funny that you bring that point up because I think we have some of the most stapled Cypher or Killjoy players in North America's history in this Challengers League. Like looking at players like Proto, for instance, I'm excited to see what he's going to be able to do with things like Cypher as we get to eventually seeing him on stream.
All this talk about agents now, and Agent Select is ready. It's time to head into that and see what Icebox is going to offer. I'm going to leave you two here, but have fun.
Thanks, Sierra. Appreciate it. Yeah, this is good. I mean, I really do think we hit this one as well as we possibly could have. But when you start to look at the map series layout for the overall agents, you know, that also kind of makes a couple of things really interesting. Because like we talked about, for this Mad Lions team, they played a ton of Icebox, and they largely just played the same roster of compositional agents as well when they were on this map.
Yeah, there's really not anything jumping off the page for me here over on the Mad Lion sides of things. I mean, this seems pretty much what I expected to see as far as what roles you would have coming out into this. So, yeah, nothing special on my end there. I think this looks pretty standard.
Yeah, and the other side, I mean, talking about a player like Seven, Sierra had touched on it, you touched on it. You know, he was one of those guys that when he was with T1, not able to qualify throughout both stages last year in NAVCT, he was looked at as kind of running Jet Chamber. But now, with this TSM squad, he's been playing that more lockdown Sentinel role. He's going to bring the Sage to the mix here. So a lot of zone control from TSM just off of, you would assume, their defensive side with the ability to go Sage, Killjoy, and a Viper. Whereas on the opposite side for Mad Lion, the biggest question is going to be how much impact will Drone have on this KO?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. You know, just to try to see how these players are going to stack up against one another. Again, we know that both these teams are pretty comfortable playing Icebox. They've played it throughout the qualification process. Again, we're getting these guys on agents that we expected to see. Again, it's more so me just wondering what the long-term looks like for some of these players who did make kind of some swaps to what agents that they play. And that's going to be Seven and Gamon in particular, who are really kind of taking the brunt of the role swapping in this matchup, you know, to kind of facilitate Corey, facilitate the rest of the squad. But no more speculation required. We're about to get live into our first pistol here as these teams make their debuts in NA Challengers 2023.
Let's do it, brother. Let's get it on. Corey also got to keep that in mind that he was a force during the Lugwood Terek Invitational on this map on Jet. Dominated for his squad, but it's going to be Mad Lions with the initial play, largely coming through middle. Toxic Sphere will just kind of block out line of sight where everyone else is trying to creep up in towards an early play potentially. There is some sort of alarm system that's going to be in play here for the defense, so you have to be very cautious as Mad Lions is still kind of finding out whatever intel they can around the map.
Yeah, they're pressuring on a lot of different fronts right now. They're pressuring Tube. They still have presence outside Long B. They're now droning their way into A site, but now that barrier, of course, blocking Zexro from getting any more forward. And you're starting to see that Spike actually swing back out as if they want to go for the Beast, but they already have that Toxic Screen in place to get them onto B side along with the Spike, and no one's there. TSM playing retake on that B side.
This is all about what does Guamon get as far as information is concerned, rotating back over kind of caddy corner with his alarm bot. Toxic Screen back up. That'll allow the offense a chance to move in, but Will is just poking and throwing shots, saying, hey, look at us, look at us, look at us. And Zexro is now all of a sudden back over towards A. The Spike is not here, though. It is Zexro by himself with a little bit of assistance from Drone, but the defensive screen actually takes the play away. And now with 30 seconds left, Mad Lions have to commit to this.
Yeah, they've been trying to go back and forth, tried to do the double fake, putting the turret down over on B side, but TSM didn't buy it. Corey stood there with the Sheriff, gets the first kill. Now it's a 5-on-4. Like you said, time is ticking, and Mad Lions do have to commit, but there is someone in the back lines here, but it's being read by Gamon.
They may have gotten enough separation here, created enough doubt. The defense is rotating over to try to get isolation onto Andrews, able to pick up one elimination. That's fine. If he gets any more, it'd be incredible, but only confirms damage. Spike planted in the meantime, and we get into a 3v4 retake situation, and it's TSM. What tools do you have to really break into this? You're kind of looking into Nature's point of view, but the flash out from Drone allows a chance to kind of stall the defensive retake, at least for a time. Kills coming through cleanly, leaves Will by himself. Can he use the clock to his advantage It'd be a 1v3 situation. First one down low, converts it, stays alive with 15 health. Paint shells has been recharged. Shock darter on the back though, able to get the damage, but it's Will lingering with the little softball toss that's able to get the eBay clutch in the first round for Mad Lions.
What a chaotic pistol, dude. I mean, like you said, there was this moment where Ainge was drawing people back over towards B. It created a little bit of a window for Mad Lions, but it really came down to individual plays, and it mostly came down to Will. Look at how he finds a way to get a 1v1 there instead of just getting instantly traded. Gets that second paint shells up, able to put it on top of the spike to ensure he would win either off the timer or off that nade damage. And so that is going to be Mad Lions drawing first blood here, but we're going to see that force up. We've been seeing this a lot as the Stingers have been a big part of the meta.
It's just one of those things, though, that we don't often see force-ups when you've lost from the defensive side still. So already TSM kind of throwing a little bit of a wrench out. Opening knife will clear out some of yellow, but largely speaking, this is going to be a... Mad Lions have to get a read that TSM have for a big question now.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the Stinger force-up's more of an attacking strategy. You don't see it too much on defense, and we do see Trick trying to send that drone forward, but he's not going to get any sort of read, as this definitely is a pretty heavy B focus on Mad Lions. But one thing you'll notice about them is they're never all in at the beginning. They do a pretty good job about keeping presence all across the map, keeping their options open. They have a turret watching for any type of A press. They have their presence over at middle as well. They're just kind of waiting to see if TSM's going to try to throw something crazy at them as they're expecting an eco.
Yeah, that long-range ADS, though, will give some information that there is a Bulldog out in play. So does this change the mentality for Mad Lions, who can continue to just kind of feel out the map, so to speak? TSM are kind of doing the same thing. They're playing very far back, not something that I think many would have expected, but a lot of respect given on both sides with these upgraded weapons for both teams in the second round.
Yeah, TSM is not afraid to play a retake is kind of what you're seeing here, and you kind of have to be willing to do that on this map, as we are going to see the utility pouring in from Mad Lions to get this spike on the A site. Some good counter utilities doing a little bit of chip damage, but that spike is going to go down. Ainge able to get a frag in the mix as well, going to make it tougher on TSM now to retake.
Zexro's in a great position up top as well, just to kind of change up the angle, give Mad Lions a little bit of variety in how they're set up for this hold. Hit coming forward, TSM trying their way through, and they nearly get Nature into a good position, but down low, it has to be won the hard way. And, well, it's just not being won. So a gamble cost here for TSM by himself. Okay, that works. Just right off the top rope, literally, but in the corner, will finish it off without much conflict. The Mad Lions take a steep advantage, even though it is just 2-0 early.
Yeah, able to just get inside that A site very quickly. While they took a little bit of chip damage here and there along the way, they were able to win the key duels that they needed to make sure they secured the round. Trick being a major part of that.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, Will getting the finishing touches there. Puts him up 2-0, and TSM in a tough spot here. We see a couple of sheriffs and that's about it. I mean, that's just kind of the repercussions of forcing last round and it not working out. Now you're kind of in this weird place where Mad Lions should be able to get the 3-0 start.
And already an early Hunter's Fury earned up from Trick through 2 rounds. Impressive to say the least. He's been able to get that off largely off of getting the spike planted.
Look at this massive flank, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, it's red, though.
It sure is. Turret says, not on my watch. So the play is to get Corey the knives.
They don't know the numbers, though. That's the thing.
Yeah. But Zex was going to have a pretty solid look at this, unless TSM to try to retrack back over through mid. Nice shots from Zexor up top. Trick also flank stays safe. So they've eliminated the threat here, Dust, and now it's just down to what can you find from the front with 2 sheriffs and a stinger.
Probably not a whole heck of a lot. The toxic screen goes back up, but Will has an up-close view over the top. Is traded by 7. Not going to be able to do much more, you would imagine. Does have Stinger, but Drone's doing a good job about making sure they can't push past him. Barrier orb goes down, but it's easily broken.
Yep. Casual as you like, I'd say, Fred, right? I mean, it's a cool stack for TSM. Try to get Corey the knives, but yeah, I think like you mentioned, the numbers may not have been red, but the kills that come with that flank were crucially important towards Mad Lions. Just really just on a coast into round number 3 for him.
To be fair, they did bring extra numbers to watch that flank, and it's probably because, hey, if that turret spotted 1 and this is an eco round, probably more than 1.
Yeah.
So I looked at they kind of just used the wisdom there to get players to watch that. Got those frags. Will gets one over the top as well. Pretty much allows them to coast through for victory. But now we have our first full buy round. We'll see if TSM can strike back here.
Quick as like, but 7 up top. Well done, gets away. Doesn't even take really a lick of damage in the process. Good help from Corey over the top to make sure that Mad Lions are simple and halted, but they don't see Drone on the quick pinch. I mean, you're gonna throw a barrier orb up and then not look the other direction. Bit of a misstep, TSM, and the spike will come down, even though Drone will take a chunk of health from the shock dart.
Yeah, shock darts come a little too late to actually deter the plant, but like you said, at least it gets some damage in there, but there's still a man down on this retake. Nature, though, quickly changes that, taking down Zexro, and we're back to equal.
Well, you've got a chance, though, to just kind of hold off and use this Hunter's Fury if your Trick has not pulled the trigger yet. Angel's actually in a great position to make sure no one was on for the actual defuse yet. Drone will be the next one to check. He's not in a position to watch, and there's the Hunter's Fury. It will go all the way to halfway, though, so this is still possible for TSM. Trying to work their way around it. The last dart will hit, but Hayes stops out for the defuse. Ain't able to stop it for now, and Nature, too low of HP, and obviously feeling the pain of the economy, is going to say, I need to save this, and back away, looking at an 0-4 scoreboard.
I mean, that's just the thing with this composition, is there's so much utility available to Mad Lions to disrupt the diffuse. Whether it be the nanos of Zexro, whether it be the snake bites coming out of Ainge, or in that situation, you also have Trick with Hunter's Fury, which just adds to the lot. And that means you just have so many kind of things you have to work through. As if you're TSM, you get past one, another one's coming, and they could just never really get comfortable on the site to get something going there. So Mad Lions continue to roar. 4-0, TSM back onto a low buy. No alts available either, except for Mad Lions. They have one on Will and Drone.
And is this maybe a moment where you look at Mad Lions after finding just routine success towards A, that you're going into kind of a half-buy situation to TSM? Do you maybe try to put stress onto Guamon, who has not really been a part of the play yet, and try to force something towards B, or do you just go mentality if it ain't broke, don't fix it?
That's a really tough call. I think for Mad Lions, they're doing a very good job about just spreading the map and making it hard for TSM to get information or get reads. And TSM, at times, though, are deciding, hey, we want to play a retake, but this hasn't worked out for them yet. I think maybe a little bit more aggression on defense might be something we see when they get a buyback, but this is a pretty good start to this eco round. They get a frag, they're up 5-4, and they get to pick up a weapon.
Yeah, it's also the null command that was ready for Drone off the table, so a threat taken care of. Really all you have to worry about now is, does Will try to open the door with a showstopper? Would be a bold call. You don't want to sacrifice your life for a one-for-one trade. So here comes a little bit of establishment over towards B, but the spike's not a part of either of these plays, and you kind of need to keep your eye just very casually on a Zexro who's lurking map. There's a sentry turret to keep him honest, but Will may delete this, and including the defender as well. So now the spike can run on, and this should be a guaranteed plant.
It should be. They also have full kitchen control because they had a player go up too, as well as Will going up over top, and so they have so much high ground here on B side. Will delaying the retake positions with his utility right now, as well as that snakebite under tube, and they now have a supreme position here in a 4-on-3.
Yeah, Zexro's going to be the first point of contact. Sees Corey dash across. Still has a nanoswarm, so might as well throw that into the mix. Seven's done well, though, I will say. Second kill for him in the round, and a chance for TSM to start making towards where the spike is planted. The question is, where are the rest of these post-plant defenders? Zexro pop, not going to be denied by Nature. Now Trick from the long angles. Yeah, very easy, very clean, very casual. And you can see exactly why Mad Lions kind of rode this icebox pick through qualifiers and why they love to see it here for map 1 in their first group match.
Man, I can't tell you how deadly this combo was from Mad Alliance to not only get the press up to, but to get Will into kitchen, because the two-player knows that he can just walk up for free. And now you hold all that high ground, you're able to put the plant in a very open position that can be guarded from a multitude of angles, and then you just get to stall out the defense, keeping that utility on the under 2 position, keeping utility inside kitchen. There's just no way in for TSM. And we are going to see Mad Lions jump up to a pretty big lead because of it. TSM taking the time out. And man, I mean, the only things I can really think of for TSM is maybe just try to force the issue on one of the extremities early. I mean, Mad Lions are getting a lot of early map control, whether that be Corey with an alt or an op, setting up an aggressive pick. Whatever the case may be, you got to do something to unsettle Mad Lions, because it feels like they are just getting to play the game at their pace every step of the way.
It definitely feels too passive, and I think you kind of see this on two sides of it. You're running a double Sentinel build here with a Sage Killjoy, so, I think just inherently you say, I don't want to get too far forward if you're Seven or Guamon, because you don't really have an exit strategy. But at the same rate, you've got all this great utility to slow down what Mad Lions wants to do, so why not try to commit some of that maybe a little bit further up, and then have, you know, the other Sentinel rotate behind if you feel like you need to, just to kind of lock down the site. And we may be getting a first instance of this. This is a very far forward alarm bot, and they're already set up to make sure that no knives or darts can come through to kind of scout out this play in front of yellow.
Yeah, they're relying on the Viper's Pit to lock A down for a bit while they try to set up an op pick for Corey over towards long B, but Mad Lions are carefully traversing over the top of the pit with the drone. They're not committing anything either direction. But at least TSM are kind of dictating the pace of this round with this Viper's Pit, and with Corey having so much space guarded by himself, and it gives them freedom to move around Nature and Gamon in the middle of the map.
And you've got options here if you're Mad Lions to talk about in this time where you've got the null command, you've got the lockdown. So if you want to counter out this Viper's Pit, technically speaking, you could with some great efficiency, or you can just avoid it and double stack all this utility over towards B and make re-entry extremely difficult in nature. Very fortunate to be alive. Trick watching the exact same angle through mid-box, now wants to clear things out through the cut, but Gamon shuts down the op play, and now first time we could say it, TSM with an advantage.
Zexro knows that he has Gamon trapped in a very difficult corner, able to get the immediate trade, but Nature picks up on that two-press. Now the op comes in from Corey, and now TSM could start cracking down across the entire map. It's only
that's
drone
just good
now.
Awareness. I mean, right? I mean, you get the read that, hey, yeah, they're playing up through mid. It's an op plus a little bit of help. Nature gets the free rotation, and then as soon as you have that intel, look at you push all the way through. So good adjustments for TSM, kind of winning that line of scrimmage down the 50-yard line, I think.
Yeah, but now they have to do so again without the Viper's Pit at their disposal. Granted, they do have several other ults that could come into play and help them out. And now they have Corey on the operator with no one having a sniper on the opposing side, so those long-range battles. And Corey, if he's dynamic about it, he can make it a little bit harder, whether he wants to be aggressive at A, be aggressive at B, kind of keep Mad Lions guessing, and that might make their map control a little bit tougher to get. And that could be how this game starts to change up a bit, and we start seeing some closer rounds.
Yeah, similar stack for TSM as this was not tested at green last time around. Sentry turret is down, but I think Corey actually missed the first shot. But regardless, it still will fade away. Zexro just trying to keep the defenders at least somewhat responsible. Alarm bot to take the sentry turret place, but Hayes is still walking right up. This is a huge 1v1, and Zexro expects it. Now numbers for Mad Lions as they're also finding some groundwork here at A.
I love that from Zexro. He knows that there was a way around his alarm bot. And so he watches the one angle he needs to be worried about. And that's the one that Hayes pressed, and he's rewarded. So just good awareness from Zexro there. Gets them an early 5 versus 4 situation. They already have some presence on A side as well. They're forcing Gamon to fall back off long B, which denies intel there as they're now about to swarm an empty A site.
Yeah. Null command comes through. Owl drone paint shells to clear, but look at the defense making their way to clear out mid and maybe even hit a. They're going to deny it. Oh, and Corey just catches drone's big right thumb. Resurrection, can it come back through to bring him into the mix? No, the Hunter's Fury is going to come out trying to stop the hit. Ainge has picked up the spike, and in the same breath, the same can be said for drone. Back into the mix. Still a 5v4 for Mad Lions. Viper's Pit to reinforce, and the tools defensively try to get back into this is only reserved to the lockdown, which gets spent. Drone still waiting up top. Does he elect to nullify himself? No, doesn't need to. Lockdown gets destroyed. And now all of a sudden there's a pinch coming out from Trick to the middle of the map. If you're TSM, you've got to go. You've got to go quickly, but the kills just simply are not there. Mad Lions getting dominant.
Yeah, that's just masterclass from Mad Lions. It looked a little bit dicey at first when Corey takes down Drone up top, who was looking for that up top plant, but he was able to get revived. This was smart from Corey, I have to admit. That's just good awareness of where that spike could be at, but the reactions from Mad Lions afterwards to get the quick revive, to get the Viper Spit down, to cancel out the lockdown of Gamon. Now they're up 6-1. They just have so much control of this attacking half. Credits running low again for TSM. They had to put a stinger on 7. If they lose this round, they're saving.
Not what you want, already coming off of the timeout as well, by the way. This could get out of hand very quickly if TSM's not careful. And still, it is a bit bizarre to see them not much utility towards trying to set up anything forward. This has been a purely reactionary defense so far from TSM.
Yeah, it's a very retake-heavy focus on the A side, but it hasn't been well orchestrated. They haven't been able to make their retake setups work. That's Will taking a lot of space right now with that boom bot, getting up on top of site. Toxic Strings recover as the spike goes down. And once again, TSM will be asked to retake a site with lower firepower.
Got Zexro with Nanoswarms on, although Shock Dart will deny the opportunity for utility to contest any sort of a defuse. So we'll need to play a little bit far forward here with Trick, who is just a kill away from 100 Fury as well, mind you. That could come into play. Trick tagged up with the Recon Dart. TSM with full flooding numbers start to make their way in. It's just gunfire and utility all over the place. Hayes wants to see what it looks like past the green wall. Not going to work out too much. Pinstripe goes to kill feed. Seven still trying to get a defuse down, but the barrier orb will not stand tall in the face of team shots. And Corey on 8 HP will meet the same fate as the rest of his squad mates. 7-1, Mad Lions.
Yeah, it's one of those tough situations when you're TSM, because not only do you have to retake the site, you have to retake the backside as well, because that's where all the post-plant utility is for Mad Lions, with the snake bites, with Trick, you know, with Drone even being able to put something down on that spike. They tried to put up a different barrier wall to hope that they would have to really force Mad Lions to burn through bullets to stop a defuse, but as they press deeper and deeper into Mad Lions' hold, they just could not get the exchanges they needed to get them safely diffusing. And so now Mad Lions up 7-1, and there's nothing left for TSM here.
Yeah, and even that last buy was not a comfortable one. Light armor for most of the players who elected into assault rifles, and now you have to default to pistols and a stinger. All evidence would point towards a very likely 8-1, but if you're a TSM fan, you have to start hoping and praying for a Thrifty just to get back into this map.
Oh, great flash and push through from Drone. Wow. Doubles up. Will takes one as well. And around where we expected Mad Lions to not have too much trouble, thanks to that firepower advantage, turns out to be a reality. There's just Corey and 7 left here.
7 up top. Denied. Even a further peek on towards Will. And the same could be said for Corey. An investor flawless for Mad Lions, and holy smokes, TSM needs something here in these last couple of rounds. Otherwise, this map just may be over.
It's starting to get to a boiling point here for sure. I mean, TSM does have the operator back in Corey's hands, and you feel like that's going to have to be the catalyst to get them back into this half. Corey needs to be able to find some type of early pick. He's been playing a lot of B. This time he's setting up for a more forward angle on A, which has been Mad Lions' kind of favorite place to attack, but
yeah,
I love the adjustment from Mad Lions to immediately pivot back over to B.
And if you think their attack looks good, just for what it's worth, Mad Lions actually hold a better defensive round win percentage. So,
oh my.
Yikes. Gramon stuck. Paint shells come through, and all the information's there as well. Hayes cannot find a single trade out. Now 7's going to get caught, at least informationally, but okay. A chance to at least try to work back in towards this side. There's still a lot that they have to work through here, but there is a little bit of utility still left. Maybe if 7 can get far forward, he can get Hayes back up, and that's exactly the call, but Zexro on the pitch, shutting down any further possible play from TSM, even getting a little bit more damage into Corey. Sure, the numbers still read a 3v3, but the obstacles that TSM have to work through are numerous, and these hurdles are high. And it does not look all that great, although Aim just kind of gives away his life, if I'm being honest to Hayes. It just may not make much of a difference now. Not enough time, too much utility, as you continue to mention, and Mad Lion's going to get the 9.
That was intentional. He wanted to be able to stay there so he could snake bite the spike. He was willing to sacrifice his life in order to get his utility down to stop a defuse there at the end of the round. So that was calculated as Mad Lions go up 9-1. And man, they just look so prepared, dude. For real. Look at the routes that you're seeing on this B attack. When that top screen goes down, Will just knows he has that coverage to get on the rope to that top container. And so not only does he get the opener, he's able to get up here. No one can really see him do it, and he gets a second one because of it. And then they're always set up, it feels like, to be able to come in these side flanks. You know, in that situation with Zexro coming through under tube, to just always keep TSM guessing. Like, they're never able to get comfortable and set up their retake.
It's just so bizarre, I think. And, you know, we've kind of, you know, beat a dead horse here with TSM kind of preparing to, playing for retakes. I mean, you've got a Sage and a Killjoy. What utility are you going to use to break down these post plants for Mad Lions?
Ooh.
Here's a good opening shutdown. Showstopper denied anything, as Hayes will collect first blood, and TSM will have not just numbers in the server here, but they've got numbers to deal with this at B.
Yeah, they're ready to go. Trick, though, takes one out. There's a flash, but he runs out of ammo trying to hunt him down with the classic. It doesn't happen, and this could be TSM's chance.
Should be good for it, you'd think. but there is a null command ready for Drone if he feels like he can maybe shut down any possible utility on the way in. Actually just peeks through the Aldrone to confirm another elimination. That is a key one. Barrier orb goes up. Spike revealed though as part destroyed, and now Drone can actually take an extra step forward. Right through the Poison Cloud, not able to find the eliminations, just down to Zexro, caught on reload, and TSM will get another one before the half starts.
Indeed they will. That just comes down to Hayes clotheslining Will as he was in midair with the showstopper, unable to be that tip of the spear to crack open the B site this time around. Got to give mad props to Hayes for shutting that one, and also just continuing to frag out well throughout the course of the round to get them their second, but only one round left to go this half, and you feel like they need it, because if they lose this, a pistol round victory for Mad Lions next half pretty much seals the deal.
Correct. So what do you do here if you're TSM? One away from a lockdown, Viper's Pit is ready to go, null command on the other side, and Ainge is still one orb away or a kill from having a Viper's Pit of his own. So as far as ultimate utility is concerned, relatively even. And this time, TSM have changed up the look. They are double stacking their Sentinels for the first time at A. And if Mad Lions commit into this, they would have guessed correctly. Null command's the first thing forward. That'll force TSM off the site. And you would assume that pretty much further on top of that, you would deal with both of these nanostorms. But okay, there you go. First one's denied. Drone will take a little bit of chip damage, but largely the Killjoy utility is bypassed.
Starting to see TSM trying to get in here with the shock darts, try to get some chip damage in. Again, though, it just doesn't happen to stop the plant. And once again, we had this 5-on-5 retake situation that TSM has struggled with.
And how do you get through the Viper? Well, that's one way of at least finding an opening elimination. Or can you do more than that, though? He may be required to. Will is still lingering on top of this. Zextra over the top has got an operator just kind of picking up anyone who could possibly threaten Will, who's now able to pick up Hayes off a little mini pinch, and Will has taken over. Mercy. Barrier orb down. Killjoy utilities in, and Will, he's on a zipline tour of Icebox.
Will is a madman, dude. I mean, I remember last year when people were calling for this guy's head on 100 Ds because he was having his struggles initially on the team, but he really turned it around during stage 2, and then internationally at Champions last year, Will was an absolute monster against teams like DRX and Fnatic. And now you're seeing Mad Lions getting to reap the benefits of having Will on their side in this round, going for the quad, saving the day when it looked like maybe TSM were going to get one more before we transition sides, but instead it's just going to be a massive half from Mad Lions, up 10-2.
Was there a single rope that Will didn't get a kill on?
I mean, he was having a good time on him. We'll say that.
Oh man, unreal stuff. So 10-2, and what felt like a must-win round in the 12th turns into an absolute must-win round here on the pistol on 13 for TSM. Offensively, tri-stack through mid, Killjoy utilities here, plus also Zextro's watching this.
Yep.
And as soon as this turret peeks up, Zextro's going to do the same, I imagine. Just throw a right-click out. And there it is. Oh, he even gets a kill on the 7? Oh, my.
That's brutal. The barrier goes up a little too late, and now look at this. Ainge on top of the site, ready for the push, able to get one down onto Gamon and stay alive and shut this attack down on all fronts.
Hayes will keep the play relatively up, and the chance to maybe finish off Ainge, but misses the opportunity. And as the window closes, so also may the hopes of this map for TSM. Drone on the little fly, 11-2, and TSM have to start forcing up. And they didn't even get spike blighted, so they're not going to be able to afford much.
I mean, they're going to force up, but it's going to be very limited. Though I will say on attacking side with Stingers, you can definitely make some things happen if you can get space early, but what a crazy kill early from Zexro just before the barrier orb goes up. But then again, Mad Lions have so much control of the map, they're able to just kind of box in TSM on that B side and just run them through the grinder. Now it's 11-2, all Stingers out for TSM. This is their last ditch effort to try to stay alive in this map.
Revealing area.
Well, we'll find out. Similar look as far as how TSM's going to set up this initial look.
Poison's off.
But that could be said for Mad Lions. It's the same turret that's down, and this time Zexro is right on the other side playing a different angle. He will have an exit to drop down with some help. Barrier orbs up, and Zexro was ready for it. 1 for 1 is perfectly fine. The defense is a little bit scattered, though, across B. This could lead to some individual gunfights, but the Cloudbursts don't really allow TSM to get in, and Trick and Angel stay alive. TSM up a creek without a boat, not just paddling.
They had just the paddles and no boat.
Yeah, one oar.
That's a tough one for sure, as we got Hayes with 19 HP left here. Hoping to work a miracle through his poison orb at middle. Actually, it's gonna catch Drone off guard there, but still such low HP, so little time, and the spike not in his possession.
Toxins going up.
Doesn't look good, and it's not. Oh my. And I don't know, I don't want to bite this off, more than we could chew right now, but you start to wonder if TSM was doing their research into things like, let's not pick Fracture because Mad Lions is good at it. Why in the heavens did you let Ice Spots through if that was the case and you did your research ahead of time?
That's tough, man, because it seemed like in the first half, TSM defensively just always seemed to guess wrong on where they placed Corey's op. Like every time they tried to put Corey in a different spot to have impact with an operator, Mad Lions was going the opposite direction. And they were just so coordinated. Like their attacks were so well timed. Everybody knew what their role was within the course of the round. Again, they were able to dictate the pace the entire time. TSM seemed like they were wanting to play retake setups on A, but they just weren't able to execute them very well. And Mad Lions were able to get their key post-plant utility players out of danger at the back of A side and then just milk the clock with their utility. So it was a combination of things that I really think harmed TSM in the first half. In the second half, obviously they just haven't been able to get going, right? I mean, they lose pistol, their econs down the drain. They have to try to go for a stinger force up. They kind of don't have a choice. And so we're probably never even really going to get to see TSM's playbook on the attack side for this map, it seems like. So, yeah, it's just been a rough ride all the way around for them, unfortunately.
Yeah. But on the other side, look at the help across the board. We mentioned this a lot in the pre-map. I mean, the assists down the board are all great. Kills are pretty much from top to bottom. I mean, the difference between Will
spread.
at 18 and Ainge at 10 is a little bit more steep, but that's just because Will's popping off. The rest of the team is between 12 and 10 kills. That's just great overall team play out of Mad Lions.
That's what we talked about pregame, too. How are the supporting cast work for this team? Working fine to me.
I'd agree.
all looks good from here.
Oh, God. This is going to look great for Will. Hello, little toe tag. Kill plus some damage. Forces TSM to kind of hit the brakes just a touch. Defense over-rotating for now, just in case there is a flood behind. Quickly realized there is not such much of an occurrence of it. Still keeping defenders forward, though.
Yeah, they got Trick still watching A. They have a toss screen that can go back up if need be to kind of slow down an A attack. So they're pretty well positioned for this. They're not too overcommitted. Barrier orb goes down, but that snake bite still stops the default plant from being able to work. And say, well, now try again, but now the wall is broken. They do get it down, though.
Yeah, that's more significant than I think you may think in the meantime, just due to the fact that all of a sudden that angle becomes an option for Mad Lions once that slow orb fades away, which it has. Offensive wall comes up for Mad Lions, trying to have to work through. Slow behind it. Knife also a part of the play, and now Mad Lions with numbers will try to force out Corey. Well done. 3v3 we go. Sentry turret, nanoswarms are finding a little bit of value, but it's actually not planted for the nanoswarms. And Trick is just gonna hold it. An absolute catastrophe for TSM. The only bit of good news is they don't deploy any more rounds on this map.
They didn't have the nanoswarm in the right spot to stop the diffuse, and then they got flashed by the KO, so they couldn't swing out and stop it manually with their weapons. That is, man, what a horrible way to end it. I mean, it was a tough ride the whole way through, but that's the toughest way to lose, I think, just having that happen.
It almost is like the icing on the cake that's being built. Now, do you want to put that cake up for sale? Hard to say. But I think it's still just, that's a great way in all the wrong ways to categorize kind of how the map went for TSM. And it feels bad to say that because they looked good versus Sentinels on this map, but Mad Lions came with something a little different today to us.
Oh yeah, Mad Lions definitely came out and impressed me today. I mean, again, we talked about it throughout the course of the game. They seem to have themselves well prepared for this match. They look very coordinated on their attacking side. They were always able to dictate the pace. They were always able to have those like side flanks and the post plants. They knew how to use their utility to like really make it hard for TSM to get comfortable diffusing the spike. Just like all the fundamentals that you want a team to have to be successful, Mad Lions displayed on this map. Really well done.
Lots of great depth, lots of great layering, and again, great team performances. A lot of things to kind of shine light on for this Mad Lions roster, but that is just map number 1. TSM will have a chance to play on their pick next. Question marks surrounding it as they have selected Bind for map number 2, a map that did not play at all during the Ludwig and Tarek Invitational. More on that, and of course more from Sierra when we come back on the backside of the break. Don't go far! It's NA Challengers, more after this.
The one skin I'd have applied to all guns would be the Prelude, the Chaos, Prelude to Chaos. I like that. I just like the Vandal. I don't know. It just, I don't know. Maybe it's the sound or the way it looks, but it just hits harder than all the other skins.
I'm gonna have to go Ion, but it would be Oni if Oni had like, what is it? The like the sound for it, VFX or whatever, right? It doesn't have that, so I'm gonna go with Ion instead. But my second answer would be Oni. I would definitely want that across all my guns if I could.
If I had to use one skin, probably would have to be the Oni Phantom, and like everything else doesn't matter, just the Oni Phantom.
H-Punk. There was because well, it's just, I don't know, it's just the cleanest skin. There's a point where I think there's been 2 Mage Punk bundles. I just had every Mage Punk equipped. I got tired of it a little bit, but I mean, it's still probably my favorite bundle, like my favorite collection.
I think the best skin would probably be Prime. Imagine a Prime op. Oh my gosh, that'd be nice. Yeah, it's I mean, I like the Vandal, and I mean, I do op, and I don't know, the sound I feel would just be so nice if they had an op Prime.
The Ion Vandal, Ion everything, which they basically already have. Yeah, they basically already have it, so that's the one skin for sure.
I think the Zed collection is probably my favorite, honestly. I love the Zed Phantom. Maybe Zed or Recon. I would say Zed or Recon, but I'm leaning towards Zed. I like the sound. It's I feel no other gun. I feel a lot of the sounds of the skins are pretty similar. But I feel the Zed, when you hear the Zed, you know that's the Zed, nothing else. You know.
Reaver, for sure. Because I love the Reaver Vandal. I love the Reaver Phantom and the knife. So give me Reaver everything and I'm chilling, honestly.
The green Oni Phantom. I used it for the last 2 years ever since it came out, and I just like it the most. So yeah.
I think if I had to use a skin for the rest of my life, it'd have to be the Sovereign set. But the white gold specifically, the white gold's crazy. No, I just like the aesthetic, the white gold, god aesthetic, Greek god aesthetic is. I like it.
Probably Sovereign. Having a Sovereign everything would be so cool. Sovereign Phantom. Don't know why it's not done yet.
If I could only use one skin on all of my weapons, I would say the Oni. I think the clean look is just great, and if I could have it on a Vandal, that'd be insane.
The little Sovereign, I love the kill animation sound and everything, and it's not too eye popping, and it's minimalistic at the same time. It's really good.